Salut, David Wallimann here, and I have some questions. Question numéro 1 is from Nilesh, who's asking me, is it important to learn songs to get better at guitar? So the question here is not only about learning songs to learn songs, but to develop your own technique and musicality. And I would say yes, if you approach it the right way. What I would do, instead of just learning a full song, is just go to the sections that really speak to you. That might be a solo section, it might be a riff, it might be whatever it is, something that really speaks to you. Try to extract from a piece that you like the best section, the one that speaks to you the most. And then ask yourself, as you're learning it, why am I liking this part so much? Maybe it's a tone thing, maybe it's an interval, maybe it's a rhythm, motif, whatever it is. As you're learning that piece, you're going to discover what makes that section so enjoyable. And then once you have that, don't stop there. I want you to start building some ideas, writing some ideas, some riffs, some solos, or whatever it is, short sections. It doesn't have to be a full song, but start writing something that uses that particular piece, that particular element that you enjoyed so much. And that's going to help you discover who you are musically, what speaks to you musically, and from there you're going to be able to expand. So that would be my recommendation. Don't just learn pieces to learn a piece, but really ask yourself, why do I like that piece? And use that in your own writing. Question numéro 2 is from Aditya, and Aditya is basically telling me that in the last 2 years, he kind of lost the joy of music, kind of lost his soul. Whenever he's playing, he's thinking in terms of theory, technique, and kind of lost the magic of music. How can he get it back? So as a guitar player, that happens to me a lot when I get too focused on the instrument. And I kind of tend to compare myself to others. Even though I hate doing that, I kind of naturally do that. And what I would recommend is get yourself a MIDI keyboard, a simple digital audio workstation. If you're on Mac, GarageBand's great. If you're on PC, check out Reaper. There's a lot of different options. And start writing music with your keyboard, not with your guitar, just with your keyboard. Write a piece. And that's kind of what the Building a Song Diary episodes that I'm doing every Friday are for. Just a different approach to music. We're taking an instrument that we're not necessarily comfortable with, a keyboard, and trying to build something. And then apply whatever you're writing to your guitar. And that will most likely produce more excitement in your playing. You're not going to think like a guitar player, you're going to think like a musician, and listen to the inner voice and see what it tells you and go from there. That's what I would recommend. Try getting yourself a little recording thing going on with the MIDI keyboard. The difference of instruments is going to inspire you more. Or if you can't do that, just tune your guitar differently. Pick up a different tuning and see what happens. I think you're probably feeling that aspect of theory and technique kind of hindering your playing because you probably understand now what you're doing. So break that to get back to the reconnection with the inner musician. I think that's going to help you. Question numéro 2 is from Davide, and Davide is asking me how to improve synchronization between right hand and left hand. I think just by being aware of what's going on as you're playing something, whether it's a lick or a scale or whatever it is, focus on both hands individually first. So if you're playing a pentatonic scale, for example, just look at your left hand, and as you're hitting each fret, be aware of when that fret is being fretted. Really think about the pressure that you're putting on each string and try to make that rhythmically coherent and steady. So, ba, 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 ba. You're putting that pressure on the string. And then do the same exact thing with the metronome, but just focus on the right hand. So the left hand is kind of locked in. You're still trying to play those frets at the same time, but just focus on the right hand. And look at your right hand as you're playing it. Your left hand is kind of automatic mode. Just focus on the right hand. And once you got that, close your eyes and try to do both at the same time, really slow, and feel the connection between the trigger, which is your pick against the string, and the pressure, which is your left hand against the string. and try to really mentally view both as locked together. So it's more of a mental exercise rather than a physical exercise. I think if you lock your mental into your playing, it's going to help you. You can do that before you go to bed too. Just when you're drifting in a dream, you just imagine that you're playing a very simple lick. It could be one string, two strings, just something very simple. Just try to visualize that and visualize your right hand triggering those strings in your left hand. It's all mental, and I think that's going to help you. Question numéro 4 is from Nick, and notice you're learning French too. Pretty cool. Nick is asking me a question about self-employment and being a professional musician, which can mean a lot of things, by the way. So let me read the question. Any advice on breaking away from conventional employment to becoming a self-employed musician? So I completely understand the struggle, and I was there too. And I would say, don't drop out of your job completely yet. Just stay focused, just do the hours so that you can maintain, an income, find a job. I made sandwiches for years for Subway restaurants, and that's what I did. And at the same time, I was trying to go towards that self-employment, self-musician thing. But as you're doing that, you're maintaining your job, doing what you can. On the side, just start working on one project, just one, that is going to pay and that is eventually going to replace your wage as a sandwich maker, for example, whatever. Just work towards that one thing. Don't get too dispersed. Just one thing. Focus on one thing. For me, it was writing backing tracks. I'm going to write backing tracks and I'm going to put up a website and I'm going to sell those tracks. That was before Jam Track Central, by the way, which at the time was bluesbackingtracks.com, I think. And then they came out. But I promise I had the idea before that website came out. Anyways, there's a lot of backing track makers out there. But that was my strategy. And so as I was working towards on the Subway thing, making sandwiches, I came back from work and I would just write backing tracks. And my plan was to have 100 backing tracks, which became the 100 backing track bundle that I sold for a long time on my website, guitarplayback.com. And eventually it expanded. But focus on one thing and keep your job and do that on the side. Don't lose track of that one thing. Once you have that one project done, try to monetize it, but just one thing at a time. You don't have to have a full plan, but just one little thing and work on that. As you're working on it, it might change a little bit. You might discover new things. That's okay. Write them down. But don't lose track of that one thing and keep doing that one realistic thing. That's my advice for you. Best of luck. It's totally possible. Have an open mind and think outside the box too. The last question of the day is question numéro 5, and that's from Angel, who is asking me, can you talk about managers? Have you had one? Has it helped you? And all that kind of stuff. I don't have a manager. I never had one. I think that if you're going the manager route, they're probably going to think in terms of job, money. New job, new money. Job, money. So you do something, you get paid for it. Do something else, you get paid for it. Gigs, basically. And I don't know if that's where I'm at today. My strategy from kind of the start has been to work in a smart way so that I get passive income, recurring income. Guitar Playback, for example, sells lessons over and over. I don't have to do lessons again every once in a while, yes, but I'm not tied to a job. I get some income coming when I'm sleeping, and I don't mean it in a bragging way. I mean it in the way that is hopefully encouraging to you. That's what I would focus on. Instead of thinking of gigs, just think in terms of setting up a passive smart income that is recurring, the minimal amount of time from you for the maximum amount of money. That maximum doesn't mean thousands necessarily. So don't focus too much on gigs, I would say, because you're going to be tied to the gigs. But if you set your passive income first, where you don't really have to chase the next gig, you can pick your gigs then, and it's fun. I got a gig coming up Friday. I'm helping a friend who's got a band here, and I'm going to cover for his guitar player. That's one of the gigs that I'll take, not for the money, but because it's going to be fun, and those are the best gigs, right? So that would be my recommendation. Don't necessarily find a manager, because a manager is going to get you a bunch of gigs, unless that's what you want. Thanks so much for all your questions. Leave your comments below. Let me know what you think of any of these questions. My point of view is only my point of view. It's not the absolute truth. That's what I think. That's what worked for me. I'd love to hear your thoughts on all this. And if you have new questions, leave them below. Thanks so much. I will see you Friday. We're getting close to the end of the Building a Song Diary. Come next Friday because I'm going to show you how to mix the song and make it a little more polished. We might add some guitar parts. And we're getting close to the end. So thanks so much for your support. Like this video, subscribe, share it around. See you very soon. Until next time. Salut!